So why study government? We'll talk about that a bit here today, and we'll talk about also the structure of this course. So what is government, first of all? So government is the formal and informal institutions, people, and processes used to create and conduct public policy. This is sort of the fancy, confusing definition of what government is, but in a broad sense, government is any institution or process that involves power, rule, and authority. Why study government or political science? In some schools, you might see the subject called political science. Some schools, it's called government. It's exactly the same thing. It is the study of the government and how the government functions, not necessarily only American government, any government. And one might study certain aspects of law, constitutional law, and other aspects of how the government functions. So what can one do with a government degree, let's say, or even with taking a couple government classes? So if you take some government classes, particularly US government, this prepares you to work for the Department of State or Foreign Service. This is a department within the United States government. It's a governmental department, but to work for them, you have to pass an entrance exam. And that entrance exam consists of quite a bit of material that we would cover in this class. So essentially the entire structure and function of the US government and various case law. Studying government is quite useful if you want to go to law school. You'll be studying a lot of political topics if you're going to law school, and particularly if you go on to study constitutional law, knowing how the US government functions is highly important. More informally, this material that we'll cover in this course, it's great for becoming an informed citizen. It might help you pass the US citizenship test. Potentially, most of you are US citizens already. But when one wants to prove themselves that they know US history and politics and that they are capable of being a United States citizen, this is the exact sort of material that one would be required to know. Finally, since in the United States we talk about politics a lot, knowing this sort of information will help enrich conversations, and you might even win a few debates. I have a YouTube link here too. It's for the song My Country 'Tis of Thee. It's a version that I think gets us all a bit in the mood to study American government. So if you'd like to listen to that, you're more than welcome to. I have the link posted right here. As for the agenda of this course, the primary purpose of the course American National Government is to understand the structure and function of the American government. This is the overarching goal that we have throughout this course. To break it down a little more specifically, weeks 1 to 4 will cover the historical and philosophical context of the American government. This week we'll look at British colonialism and the American Revolution. Then we'll look at American political values. Following that, the US Constitution, and finally American federalism. After this, weeks 5 to 8, we'll look at the role of the people in the government, the people meaning the average American citizen. First, we'll look at civil liberties and civil rights, then political parties, next public opinion, interest groups and the media, and finally campaigns, elections, and voting. Weeks 9 to 12, we'll look at how the representatives of the people function in the government, meaning the Congress, the presidency, the judiciary, and finally the federal bureaucracy. And the last 2 weeks, weeks 13 to 14, we'll look at the government in action, and that means domestic policy and foreign policy. I have this little picture here that I like. It states here, those who don't study history are doomed to repeat it, yet those who do study history are doomed to stand by helplessly while everyone else repeats it. Regardless, it's very important to know where things come from and why they function the way they do. So that's my reasoning for emphasizing this historical component, particularly this first week and in the first couple weeks. It's very important to know how and why the US government emerged the way that it did, because many of those first characteristics of the US government that were implanted into its creation are very real and true to this very day.